Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Grain Gauntlet. As always, 5 questions, including at least one from one of our prospects. We'll have a USDA report coming up this week, so we'll have some fresh data, and I think a lot of these questions are in anticipation of that. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go, and I have one goal. For all you got people who are prospects, become our clients, and we won't have a fifth question.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're always going to be looking to grow. I don't know, magic. All right, first question. Anything of significance happened in the corn and soybean markets while I was harvesting?
Beans rally like crazy on anticipated new demand from China or back to normal demand. We got to remember that our fundamentals this year are based on low export number. Only 39% of our total demand is coming from exports, so we don't have to have a home run. We just need China to participate. The deal is supposedly done, is going to get finished. We're going to see some buying. And realistically, China has to buy, okay, because they can't, the tolerance of Brazil's Argentina import soybeans, they can't keep selling to China either. So bottom line is we're going to get 20% of our sales, 20% of China's buying are going to come from us. So that is new. The yield drop that everyone's anticipating for corn and beans is new. The yields did not come through. Reports in corn are 40 to 60 bushels less for those who had Asian rust that didn't spray. So when you have that pretty widespread, it's going to affect yields. We don't know any of this because while you were harvesting, we got no new numbers. Okay, we know what export sales are right now. We know what export intentions are, but that's a past number, not a futures number, winter futures market.
Right. Only thing I'll add is that our buybacks are doing well, and it's not too late to do those. So, well,
Thumbs up.
definitely with corn, definitely a lot of potential still up with corn. Soybeans, we kind of got to wait to see what happens with this report. Probably would want to wait until after this week to do anything with soybeans, but definitely not too late. All right, next question. My basis is getting better with corn. Should I take advantage and sell some?
Getting better basis is usually the first sign of a rally, and it happens when we start to slowly lock the bin doors. The piles that we expected aren't there. Very few piles throughout the Midwest, and those that have piles are eating through pretty rapidly. So, yeah, you can make sales with better basis. That's cool. However, best basis is usually Christmas holiday. That's when we usually get the best basis, so we can wait till then. That's fantastic. Got on farm storage, I would definitely wait till that time period. On top of that, once we get past the transition from December front month to March front month in corn, and from January to March in beans, we usually go down a little bit going into that transition, but then we start the real rally. So I expect the rally to be strongest between December 10th and end of February. So holding off, I think, is better. But if you need cash flow, better basis, make the sales and do a buyback.
Yeah, safe to say it's whether it's really the recommendation for sales is just limited to, like you said, cash flow or lack of storage.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's great.
All right, next question. Could we see that China actually did order soybeans while the government was shut down, and what effect would that have with prices?
Well, we're not getting export sales, so we don't want any future buying that has been made because there's no export sales reports. So who knows? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. The market doesn't know. Part 2 of that question was what?
What effect would it have on your prices? Let's say
If you get more demand, prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
If we get less demand, if we don't get any new sales as of right now, we're going to stagnate until we do. China is important. They agreed to buy beans. I expect them to do that. Maybe they already have, and the USDA just hasn't announced it with export sales because there's no export sales report. By the way, we are getting export tensions, but again, that's a past number what's happened, not a futures number, when a futures market.
Yeah, no China inspections on Monday, but that we're not yet in that point where we'd be saying that they definitely haven't bought. I think some people were suggesting that maybe next week would probably be about the earliest we'd see them anyway. So nothing has yet transpired with that to make any definitive claim either way.
You know what's weird? It's on Friday. The USDA could increase corn and soybean export demand.
Yes.
Without an export sales report,
Right.
we wouldn't know what this extra demand came from. This
So we're right. I get our first clue. What they do to demand on Friday's report.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. If the deal with China doesn't get signed, or they don't deliver on the purchase expectations that have been set, what would we expect then?
Well, if the moon doesn't come up with horizon, you know, that's a hypothetical. Okay, obviously, fundamentals would be worse. We would have a harder time seeing a significant rally. We would probably take some precaution at that point, the longer it goes on, by maybe hedging or making another sale, something to be safer. But to know exactly what's going to happen, my expectation is it's going to happen. We're going to get a signature. They're going to buy beans because China has to. They buy 114 million metric tons of beans a year. That's not enough grown in South America to meet that demand. They're going to buy some of our beans. And when that happens, they'll sign a little deal to make Trump happy so they can export more of their junk to us.
Yeah. All right, final question. This one came from Frostbite. It's pretty straightforward. It says, how does corn get to $5 on the board?
Well, we have more buyers and sellers. That's how we get to the $5 mark on the board. Last year, we rallied from December 10th to the first week of February from $4.20 to $4.90. Didn't quite get to $5 because farmers started selling it. I would assume we'll get there the same way this year by, well, as my dad said a long time ago, put corn in the bin and take it out 2 weeks later for no reason, right? You don't do why would I do all that work, okay? Why would anybody do all that work? Put all that corn in the bin to accept the same price 3 weeks later. It doesn't happen. Bin doors slam shut. Demand doesn't stop, and therefore, first thing that happens, basis improves. When they get some bushels up for that, and it's not enough, then commercials start to buy more, lock in that lower price, and we move up to farmers start to sell. I don't see farmers selling any sooner this year than last year. Do you?
Yeah.
I don't think so. So $5 is privilege retirement because of short-term supply and demand.
Yeah, one thing I literally just had this exact conversation with someone about an hour ago, and we kind of spelled out exactly what you were saying. The way the events transpired last year, farmers stopped selling, and the year, January, USDA adjusts numbers. Those two things, pretty decent chance, both of those two things to happen. And then the one wild card I gave her was that, perhaps we get some weather in South America, perhaps La Nina does set in. That takes place between December and February. And so maybe that would be the final thing that puts us over $5 if that does.
Yeah, if we get a weather event in South America, we could be significantly over $5, especially if you guys are all right on yields being lower than what the USDA is saying right now. So, people, and I've talked about this almost every month on these tapings, people look at USDA WASDE reports as the gospel, and it is for the whole year, okay? It gives us a range of prices for the whole year. Short term is dictated on short-term fundamentals. Beginning harvest, there's too much corn, too much soybeans, hard to rally, right? After the bin door is locked, there's not as much corn in the pipeline, easier to rally. It's simple fundamentals, and we're entering a period of time where you guys aren't going to put that stuff in the bin and then pull it out easily. Bottom line, we should rally.
Okay, good. All right, well, that's all for this week. Thank you for the questions, everyone. As always, if you want a question of yours to be answered on this show, email it to adminstaff@hedge-plus.com. Aside from that, we're looking forward to getting some new numbers from the USDA on Friday.
Have a good week.
Thank you.